Assalamu alaikum, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. We are delighted to welcome you to the UAE Government Experience Exchange Talks, where we proudly share the knowledge, experiences, and best practices in the UAE and the world. Today, we will learn more about Digital Dubai and its vital role in developing and overseeing the implementation of policies and strategies that govern all matters related to Dubai's information technology, digital transformation, and cybersecurity. Digital Dubai brings together the expertise of 4 entities: Dubai Electronic Security Center, Dubai Statistics Center, Dubai Data Establishment, and Smart Dubai Government Establishment. In the second part of today's session, we will have the chance to learn about Open Data Watch, which is an international nonprofit organization based in Washington and working at the intersection of open data and official statistics. It also supports the implementation of change in the production and management of official statistical data, concentrating efforts in 3 areas: policy advice, data support, and accessibility and monitoring, to increase the use and impact of data. Allow me to start the first session by welcoming and introducing His Excellency Younus Al Nasser, the CEO of Dubai Data and Statistics Establishment. His Excellencies played an instrumental role in Dubai's digital transformation over the past 7 years, overseeing the evolution of Dubai government entity, e-government, to Smart Dubai to Digital Dubai today. He created policies and standards for data sharing, created a network of data champions across Dubai government and semi-government entities. His Excellency built the city's first open data sharing platform, Dubai Pulse, and has also charted the future of the city's data ecosystem by creating a private sector engagement strategy. Your Excellency, Younus Al Nasser, we are all here excited to hear from you today. The floor is yours. Your Excellency, I think you're muted. If you don't mind opening the mic.
Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening for the ones who are joining us from abroad. I would like to start by thanking Government Experience Exchange Talks to give us the opportunity to share some of our latest achievements when it comes to data government and the journey of digitizing life in Dubai. And in order to begin, it's important to shed the light on the latest achievements that Dubai has been doing when it comes to digitize Dubai. And that has started, of course, with a long journey back that is for more than 2 decades, with transforming Dubai into with an aim to transform Dubai into an electronic government and a focus on government shared services and creating an e-government concept, all the way to a second generation of transformation where there has been a focus to become a mobile government, having all of our services and mobile apps. Then we moved to a third generation of transformation where we focused on the concept of smart cities to become more data-centric and to govern the data within the city with the latest and greatest technology that were available, and also to utilize disruptive technologies such as blockchain. Then that was not enough, and we always continued to raise the bar to become a paperless government, to become in 2021 the first government that are truly paperless. And with that, we've ended another, I would say, journey of digitization and start another one, which is Digital Dubai. What we are trying to do at Digital Dubai at the moment is to have strategic shifts, to move from focus on digitizing government into focusing into digitizing the entire city, moving from digital services in government only to digital experiences that are bringing public and private sector together to serve best the people who are living and are resident in the Emirate of Dubai, moving from a centralized approach of managing data within the cities to more decentralized approaches, only from, and also to move from cybersecurity that is focusing on government to cyber resilience of an entire city and protecting our critical information infrastructures, from measuring government digitization and to measuring our entire competitiveness among international peers globally, and to move from an operator role to into enabler regulator, with an aim to, and that is through three different establishments, three main arms that are acting into enabling that digital journey, which is digital government of Dubai, data and statistics, and Dubai Cyber Security Center. Of course, the aim is to achieve the vision of His Highness Sheikh Hamdan bin Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum when he mandated Digital Dubai to digitize the entire life of Dubai through so that we become among top 3 cities globally. When it comes to digital cities, to be among top 5 when attracting digital talents, and to deliver 50 impactful digital experiences that are seamless, connected, proactive, and providing predictive experiences within the city of Dubai. Of course, with an aim to have 90% satisfaction levels when it comes to digital well-being, and to add annually to the economy of Dubai of a value add that is equivalent to around 100 billion dirhams. And of course, that can happen through 7 digital pillars. The first is digital city, digital talent, digital infrastructure, also digital economy, cyber security, digital competitiveness, last but not least, data and statistics, which would be the focus of the upcoming slides of my presentation. And of course, as we shed the light that our focus in data is to move from centralized approaches to become more decentralized, and also from supply side of data to become more demand-based data-driven initiative. And our journey is not new in governing data within cities. Our journey have started in the year 2004 with a focus on data governance instruments. Then we moved into creating an ecosystem of bringing the different parties from public sector to provide data to the city of Dubai, and putting the right, I would say, foundational blocks that enable such an ecosystem and exchange of the data. Then we moved into a journey where we wanted to create more value within the city, and we've been positioned at the heart of the decision-making when it comes to the Emirate-wide effort in combating COVID-19 virus. And we've been able, through data and advanced technologies and sciences, to enable the decisions that were more, I would say, proactive and informative into balancing the needs of the people in Dubai between prioritizing the health aspects of the pandemic and also the economic situations that the Emirate have been through. And we continue this journey, of course, and to looking into areas where we can create more value of data. And we continue in that through enabling data monetization in Dubai, leading, I would say, some unique positions or unique projects that are distinguishing ourselves from other peers, and continue to add data within the city of Dubai. Under data and statistics, we of course have 4 pillars. The first pillar is, of course, value creation, as we've been discussing in this presentation, organizing data sources, and over here we have a focus on making sure that we have sufficient supply and preserving the city digital wealth, which is data, and maintaining its high level of quality and to be ready for consumptions of AI. I would say data solution has also been one of the products that we've been creating over here continuously to make sure that data can be consumed through analytics, through dashboarding tools, and also some of the services that are in the city. And the last pillar is, of course, on the trust. And for the sake of the remaining time that we have in this session, we'll focus on data trust and data governance approaches that Dubai have taken over the past 7 years. And before we have a deep dive on data governance, it's really important to understand this triangle. The triangle, I would call it the triangle of Dubai data governance, where it's not enough to, I would say, protect data, we need to have multiple lenses that can deliver the value of the data. Of course, we need to have a safe environment that is providing us with high level of privacy protections and facilitating compliance with key local and national and international regulatory regimes that we need to be compliant to, and making sure that whatever is being exchanged is really compliant with the laws that are out there, but also protecting the data, and more importantly, the data that contains confidential or personal identifiable information. Second lens was, of course, to look into the fairness of, I would say, disseminating data within the city and making sure that there are, I would say, commercial models that creates, I would say, the confidence across the different players of the ecosystem to come and feel that they can contribute with the data and also get the value that they expect out of their data. Last but not least, to ensure that also easy access and easy exchange of the data within the Emirate of Dubai. So the data governance that we've created in Dubai has those three lenses at the heart of, I would say, exchanging and disseminating data within the Dubai. And of course, in order to govern data, it's not enough to use one tool. We move from, I would say, more soft tools to more towards having more restricted tools where we use laws and policies that comes into an action. We also use frameworks that is also creating the understanding and giving us the agility to move around with, I would say, software policies that are enabling and that are also adapting to the latest efforts when it comes to advanced technologies. As you know, we are continuously disrupted with technologies, and we need to keep our legislations up to date when it comes to compliance to those legislations. So what are our regulations today? We do have Dubai Data Law. It's a law that was issued in the year 2015, which made Dubai the first city to mandate the sharing of data, use and reuse of its data. And this is not only a focus on open data. This is also make sure that we govern also our confidential information in a way that we can protect it, but also create a value out of it. Data policies, this is also a set of policies that are governing the dissemination of the data, sharing of the data, the classification of it, access rights to those data, and the usages that the public or the private or the individuals can have on Dubai data that was provided to the public. Data standards, and I also over here, I will shed some of the lines that we have in this area. Last but not least, a couple of I would say, compliance frameworks that we've been working today through a network of champions who've enabled their organization to become data-driven organizations. We moved also from, I would say, pure data governance into looking into technologies that are using data, and over here is our focus is on AI. Of course, our AI ethics in Dubai it's a unique of its kind, and I welcome you to download it through the QR code that is available on the screen in front of you at the moment. But we wanted to make sure that our use of AI becomes more responsible, inclusive, safe, and also addresses the ethical challenges that we need to adhere to. When we issued Dubai Ethic Guideline, we make sure that it comes with a self-assessment tool. It's a technology tool that comes in hand so that organizations who have use cases that they need to test themselves among how ethical they are when it comes to the use of the data or the use case that they are implementing in AI to check how they're scoring among different pillars of policies that we've created in Dubai. Our data sharing toolkit is, again, another way of providing the guidance, the directions and resources for individuals, for private and public sector organizations to develop and design their initiatives when it comes to data exchange. It is not enough to provide organizations with policies. You need to also ease it up for them through toolkits that can take them through the journey step by step of identifying how they can be more, I would say, how they can create value while they are sharing and exchanging their data, and having, I would say, a decision matrix on different decisions that they need to do when it comes to managing data, managing an infrastructure that is behind that data, and also managing the use and reuse of their data within their organizations. Dubai Data Standardization Guidebook, it has, I would say, around 28 standards. We've also in there, we've shed the light on Dubai registers. It's trusted, I would say, sources of data that's been identified as referential data that can be used within, I would say, people who are interested in Dubai's data to have, I would say, an accurate information about the city of Dubai. We also been looking at compliance and data maturity journey of Dubai. We started with measuring compliance towards Dubai data laws and policies and standards, but then we realized that we also need to up the game, looking through the different level of maturity that they need to be from in the government of Dubai. We move from compliances and all the way. We want the city of Dubai in the upcoming 3 years to become data driven in its decision and empowering its products and services through data. And over there in data maturity, we are looking at data quality. We are looking at data publishing and exchange, the culture that's been created within the organizations when it comes to the data, how they are compliant to our regulatory frameworks, what are the processes are driven within their organization that is have data at the heart of it, how many registers that they've created in their organization, how they are managing the data within their organization, looking at the policies that's being issued using data, being it in mobility, being it in energy, being it in health, and so on. Last but not least, also to look at have they been able to drive any direct or indirect economic value to Dubai, and start to have, I would say, a quantifiable way that we can measure the economic impact that they are creating while using data. Another advanced, I would say, governance method that we are using in a way that we are governing Dubai's data to make sure that it is AI ready, our synthetic data approach. We know while we are managing our greatest asset, which is data, there are a lot of data that's been provided for open use, but there are, we believe, areas that still can be made open, but we need to solve the challenge of the confidentiality of personal identifiable information. So what we are trying to do over here is to use AI to provide an anonymized version of the data, but while we maintain, I would say, the relationship between the different variables of the data, the statistical integrity of the original data, and guaranteeing that this data can be utilized by AI. We were one of the first cities to launch our synthetic data approach. And of course, we do have a full report that we published around how do you do it and what are the different frameworks that you need to measure yourself against so that you can produce synthetic data. Our report is also rich with different technologies that can be used in order to formulate synthetic data. And again, once again, you do have the QR code in front of yourself in order, if you wanted to have deeper understanding of our synthetic approaches in Dubai. The synthetic data that we've issued in Dubai, of course, we wanted to make sure we implemented on the ground. So we went into identifying with our partners within the government of Dubai the different use cases that can be implemented in this and have an opportunity to be a synthetic version of data that is AI ready for consumption of AI and to be ready for AI. So we have some of the use cases that are under development. Some of them it's ready to be put in our sandbox, and some are having independent experimentations. One of which is being led internally in our organization, which is Dubai Data and Statistics, which has to do with our labor force survey. The statisticians that are here with us in the call, they understand that the labor force survey comes with a very rich level of information that provides some statistical information to the public. But what we want to make sure over here is that we use the underlying data, the micro data that we have it behind the survey, and to make sure that we open that as a synthetic version for the researchers. Among many other use cases that's been identified by our peers, being it in health or being it in police, in I would say utility, and Dubai Water and Electricity Authority, or within the customs. The custom use case is quite interesting, that together with them we are looking into all of the goods that are coming in and out of the ports in Dubai. We want to create a synthetic version of that data that can be utilized by AI algorithms to create an advanced algorithm that helps detecting any risks and any shipments that are coming into Dubai, so that we minimize the shipment time of clearance in the Emirate. So those were a couple of examples of data governance approaches that we've been driving here in Dubai, with an aim to create a trust and safe and fair and ethical data ecosystem. We are focusing on providing an architecture and a platform for city data exchange, of course, empowering our digital economy through high quality data-driven decision makings, and become at the heart of any decisions that are happening here in Dubai. Of course, number of initiatives that we are driving are endless. Since the focus of the call has been on data governance, those are the sets of, I would say, enabling tools that are allowing us to manage our greatest asset in Dubai. Thank you again for providing us an opportunity. And once the second session is over, I would be more than welcome to answer any questions that you have when it comes to how to manage data and a digital transformation journey. Thank you.
Thanks, Your Excellency, for this rich, insightful, and informative presentation. Now we might open the door for a couple of questions before we move to the second session. So allow me to start with the first question. Is there any challenges that you're facing with your partners, with strategic partners and private sector as well?
Well, I would definitely say any data initiative comes with opportunities and challenges. We always love to transform the challenges into opportunities that we can find the right solutions among it. I would say, of course, data literacy has been a challenge, and we were among different understandings of what does data-driven organization mean on different sector levels or in different government organization. And the way that we've looked at it as an opportunity, we said, if such a data literacy becomes an issue here, let's provide the right courses and provide the right diplomas for the government employees to come and apply into, so that we improve a data literacy within the government of Dubai. We've been able to graduate more than 400 champions to be data literate within the Emirate of Dubai. We've been lacking data scientists back then. And again, we've looked at it with the lens of, I would say, opportunity. We've collaborated with the Rochester Institute for Technology University to design one of its first kind in the region, a data science master degree, so that we supply enough skill sets when it comes to data science within the Emirate of Dubai. Last challenge I would like to highlight is that it's important to understand the maturity level that we have in different organizations, so that we understand the level of challenges and then put the right action plans that can mitigate that. Once we are open towards understanding where do we stand into becoming a data-driven organization, it's become much easier to address any challenge, as there are I would say, endless number of tools that can address that. From where we've been to where we are today, I would say globally and locally over here, the data governance is maturing, and there are more and more ways of how do you resolve challenges that comes with data from policy point of view and also from technology capabilities point of view.
Thanks, Your Excellency, for this comprehensive answer. So we will have a few more questions. The second question will be about how does Digital Dubai plan to stay ahead of emerging challenges in this rapidly evolving technology landscape? So how do
Well,
you, for this, I think it's related to future foresight, and how do you get ready to these challenges?
well, I would say in simple words, inspect and adapt. Continuously inspecting
Inspect and
what's
adapt.
happening and adapt to the changes that are needed. There are disruptive technologies that requires immediate action. So if you're continuously and actively inspecting, then the right actions follows. And as we shed the light, the reason why we are becoming data-driven is to make sure that we do have the insights and the foresights ready in the hands of our decision maker to make sure that we take the right decisions. So that is the first tool that we use over here. I would say second is, since you are living in a digital world, you need to be continuously up to date with the right skill sets that is relevant with the technologies that are there. For example, a year ago, people were barely talking about the skill sets that's needed for prompt engineering when it comes to generative AI. Today, everyone is really interested into how to consume or produce AI. So this is a new skill set. Should we remain silent about it? I don't think is that right answer. It's just continuously educating ourselves.
That's true. So another interesting question: what ethical considerations or guidelines does your company or your organization follow while dealing with data collection, analysis, and utilization? So she's asking about, Hamda is asking about ethical considerations and guidelines.
Of course. As I said, when it comes to governing data in the Emirate of Dubai, the Dubai data law, Dubai data policies and standardization is handling a lot of aspects when it comes to governing the data. And then when we are utilizing that data and putting it into actions, ethical considerations are coming, I would say, horizontally and vertically. Horizontally for central bodies that are processing data within the government of Dubai. Vertically, when it comes to, I would say, other government organizations that are working on it. An example of that is Dubai health sector. Over there are health practices when it comes to ethical issues and uses of data that are very specific to the domain, and we come on the horizontal level to align to align with that. Do we use it internally? Of course, yes, specifically on the usages of AI. So whenever we put data into the consumption of AI, we make sure that our AI use cases are inclusive when it comes into any decisions that they take. We make sure that there are level of fairnesses that and safety nets that our AI, I would say, algorithms or solutions is considering. Last but not least, also looking at, I would say, confidentialities of information that are in hand, and how do we feed it into our technology. So it depends on the use case, it depends on the vertical that we are working on, and accordingly we act into becoming more responsible about the usage of the data within the city of Dubai.
Great. So last question before we start the second half of the session. How do you manage the confidential information and the privacy rights to anonymize the data? And is there a culture of sharing data with total confidence?
Well, there are, I would say, I would like, again, to go back to my presentation. There are two ways. One, which has to do with the regulatory approaches that we have. And 2 years ago, United Arab Emirates have launched the personal data privacy law that was specifically identified the responsibilities of the people who are collecting personal identifiable information and processing of those personal identifying information. Last but not least, also getting the right consents around it from individuals to make sure that we are adhering to highest level of standard when it comes to processing any confidential information that has to do with people's information. That was the regulatory way of dealing with the data governance or of confidential information. The technological way of doing that is, again, as I highlighted in my presentation, is synthetic data. We understand we collect a lot of sensitive or confidential information. Should we stop and say we don't do anything about it because it has that type of information? I think the more responsible way is to find solutions for that. Synthetic data is a version of how do we make sure that that confidential information can be exchanged, we removed any sensitivity around it. Can we say confidently that can be done? I would say confidently, yes. Are we yet there? I would say we are on a journey of producing more and more of synthetic data that are usable by the public.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency, for your generosity in answering the questions and in giving this very exciting session. So now allow me to introduce the second speaker for today's session, Ms. Taylor from Open Data Watch. She conducts research on open data use and accessibility, and she also assists with strategic policy and methodology review and report writing. Ms. Taylor, how are you?
I'm great. Very excited to be here.
Thank you so much for being with us today. Before we start, would you like to ask any question to His Excellency Younus Al Nasser?
Oh, thank you for the opportunity. Yes, your presentation was very interesting. I'm sure I'll actually have some follow-up questions for you by email, because a lot of your programs are very in line with what we're seeing as global trends, and it seems that you guys are establishing the trend yourself, which is exciting to see. So I'm wondering, as you guys approached this space of wanting to be more innovative in your digital strategies, what was the process like to determine where to first start? Did you decide to purposefully start with, let's say, AI or digital, or more of a national strategy? Did you start broad and work your way down, or did you start with specific goals and make them broader in your NSO?
Well, let me say, I would say the approach have been, I would say, middle out. So it's a mix of both approaches. So there are national strategies that we cascade down into the digital aspect of what we need to do in order to deliver on them. Of course, on the Dubai context level, we do have our national strategy when it comes to our economic agenda. And our economic agenda is also focusing on the digital economy. So that is one of our strategic pillars that we are cascading down from a national economic strategy into digital economy, and all the way to initiatives that has been can be led with the partners from public and private sector, and also to put, I would say, more targets towards them and make sure that everyone can come together with a unified approach to deliver them. So that is more of the cascading down. The bottom up is also always by looking at where are emerging needs that are coming and to address them continuously as we move forward within the transformation that we are leading in Dubai. What we are ensuring is that we always stay agile in our approaches. As technology is disruptive, it's changing a lot. So until you put a strategy and move ahead towards implemented, there are a lot of changes that you need to embrace. So do the minimum, but deliver the maximum, I would say, has been always the approach towards our mandate. And I would definitely be happy to connect with you afterwards to share more, I would say. It's a very interesting journey that we're still learning from.
Certainly.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Ms. Taylor, the floor is yours.
Okay, great. Well, let me share my screen quickly, and you all can tell me if you can see. I'm hoping you can.
Yes, we can see. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, well, hello, everybody. It's a pleasure to see so many people joining us here today. That's very exciting. My name is Taylor Ano, as I've already been kind of introduced. I'm the research analyst at Open Data Watch, and I'm here as a representative of that NGO, and I'm honored to be speaking with you all today. Before we launch into this presentation, and I will try my best to keep it under 20 minutes, I think I can start with a quick introduction of myself and my organization. So as I said, I am the research analyst for Open Data Watch, and we are an international NGO that works at the intersection of open data and national statistics. And by doing so, we support the efforts of national statistical offices to meet the goals of their national plans, the SDGs, and we also help to improve the coverage and openness of official statistics in a technical capacity building way. So one of the ways that we work in this space is that we monitor, as has been mentioned, the completeness and openness of data, or rather development data, that NSOs and other government agencies are producing in order to maximize public good. And then we engage with those NSOs, those government agencies in those countries on a number of projects. That's most of my work is assisting on workshops, trainings, anything to assist organizations and NSOs to meet their own goals. So in this session in particular, I'll be focusing on data governance as well as data stewardship and what's needed to move forward in both of those aspects. Before we discuss data stewardship, before I dive too deep, it's very important, I think, to briefly introduce data governance as a concept, as it's nebulous, let's say. There's many different definitions for it. There's many different styles of it, which I think would be helpful to dive into a little bit. So as I'm sure we're all aware of, data governance is one of the top policy priorities, as I've seen from His Excellency's earlier presentation, for governments to address in order to maximize the benefits of their data, particularly in regards to access and sharing while addressing related risks and challenges. So it's usually thought of as the exercise of decision-making. So that would form policies, directives, and regulations on the data that's being published. As you can see on the screen, the definition from the OECD directly states that data governance refers to the diverse arrangements, including technical, policy, regulatory, or institutional provisions that affect data and their cycle. So working out how to govern data within and across organizations is difficult, which is why there's so many models of them. We'll get into those shortly. But a middle ground that we try to focus on and that we see most commonly practiced are replicated and federated governance frameworks. So replicated data governance is when multiple organizations within a government coordinate to maintain consistency across their various data governance policies. And federated data governance, on the other side of that, is when one common data governance model is adopted by multiple agencies or ministries. So in other words, replicated data governance is when multiple government agencies coordinate with each other to ensure standards are being met regardless of how they're collecting and producing data, whereas federated data governance focuses on a single standard that everyone kind of gets behind and sticks to. So though there are many different approaches to data governance, you can see some of them listed on the screen here, individual organizations need to determine what will work best for them by keeping in mind the purpose for which the data is being collected and used. I've already heard that this is a common practice in the UAE. I've seen that with my own eyes. You guys are very good at setting the trend in this case. So for example, not necessarily this NSO, but some NSOs may want to develop a more centralized model of data collection, a more centralized model for standard setting, let's say, given its role in coordinating the overall production and dissemination of official statistics at the national level. But a more decentralized or modular model of data governance may work better in certain instances where the control over data is distributed in such a way that if multiple agencies collect and publish their own data separately from the NSO, it might be easier to have a more decentralized model. But in any case, I note that too much decentralization does not work well in volatile environments. And by volatile, I mean environments which require data standards and coordination to tackle global information and sharing challenges that hasn't quite established a systematic way of doing that yet. And conversely, too much centralization can then hinder experimentation and the creativity that's sometimes needed to innovate, as we've seen through the UAE. So these risks are why many NSOs just opt for choosing the middle ground of replicated or federated data governance frameworks. Recently, there's been a push for more styles of data governance to modernize in many ways and become more reflective of current NSO and data producers' concerns. So that could include, but is obviously not limited to, the realization that more investments, financial investments, are needed to improve data security and privacy concerns, or that partnerships are becoming crucial for knowledge sharing and best practices, or that the constant development of AI needing to be corralled in some sort of way by ethics and responsible use. These are all things that are pushing the kind of global movement for data governance to move a little bit more into data stewardship. So before we discuss data stewardship in more detail, I'll go over a little bit the link between the two, data governance and data stewardship, and how they actually complement each other. So data governance is strategic, and it involves creating an organizational structure that's responsible for managing governance decisions, whereas data stewardship is operational, we found, and involves much more identifying what data are critical and documenting the allowable values of that data. So data stewardship is often described as data governance in action in this way. It includes the management and oversight of data to ensure fitness for use, compliance with policies, compliance with directives, et cetera. So it can kind of be thought of as the next step in the progression of data use, essentially management and oversight of data to make sure that it's as useful and effective as it can be for those who wish to use that data, either government or CSO individuals. And I'll clarify, as you can kind of see on the screen here from this word cloud, there are many common threads among those working in this space on what data stewardship is and what it comprises. However, a single definition does not currently exist because it takes on different meanings and different implications depending on the local context and the specific data community that it's being applied to. So as you can see from this word cloud that we generated when we kind of asked data producers to describe what they think comprises data stewardship, very different answers, common themes, like I said, but no one really has a clear understanding of, or not a clear understanding, but rather a single definition of what a data steward or data stewardship is, which I would argue is a good thing because it means that you can be more experimental and you can tailor it to suit the needs of your specific NSO. But generally speaking, data stewardship is identifying what data are critical, documenting the allowable values of data. It often comprises the functions and roles that all of them that are needed to enable the reuse of data for public benefit. So data stewardship being the next step from data governance can be seen as the latter side of the data value chain, meaning that the data you publish has the most value when it's disseminated and reused by others or otherwise has some sort of impact, as you can see by the final stage of the value chain. And ideally, it's used to drive decision-making by policymakers, and that is part of data stewardship, is policy innovation and policy work. So for those unfamiliar with the data value chain, given my short time, I'm happy to send a link and maybe a deeper dive into what this is, but this is an infographic that was developed by my organization, and it's essentially a visual representation of the data journey from collecting the data, cleaning, exploring, and describing and understanding the data, analyzing that data, and then lastly, communicating with others the story that the data has to tell. So data governance and actionable data governance in the form of data stewardship cover all steps of the data journey, also called the data lifecycle, depending on who you're speaking to. But data stewardship in particularly focuses on the last couple of stages on uptake and impact. Again, for anyone who's interested in this, it's very long. I'm happy to send a link later. So moving on, focusing more on how data stewardship applies to national statistical offices, is that we are noticing a shift, and a good one at that NSOs and data producers at the national levels are becoming data stewards quite naturally. And in doing so, they can help to foster more inclusive data systems and more effective use of that data. So when NSOs or other government data producers take on the role of data stewards, it allows for more collaboration and cooperation and interoperability amongst the entire national statistical system, not just the NSO, which is what we're always kind of aiming for. And the primary role of a data steward would vary depending on the organization. We'll go over a couple of examples of this shortly, but a data steward is usually most involved in lifecycle management of the data, ensuring data protection and privacy, as those are large concerns, as we've already heard, setting and maintaining interoperability standards, standardizing training and communication, both internally and externally. So that's where we'd also hear about data literacy and the steps that NSOs or data producers are taking to kind of advocate for and produce methods for people to become more data literate. These are all roles that, again, you can see the NSO has kind of stepped into naturally. And so it can be difficult to assign any one role or any one act as being data stewardship or being a data steward. But this is kind of what that comprises in action. So when done successfully, data stewardship ensures that data management is fully aligned with an organization's overall strategy. That could be a national strategy, it could be internal corporate strategy, but making sure that it supports organizational performance. So sound data stewardship would include repeatable and automated business practices, for example, well-established roles with accompanying accountabilities for those responsible for the data, ensuring that business rules are adhered to and that metrics and audits are being used to continuously improve data quality and effective stewardship of the data that you are producing. So the advancement of data stewardship can perhaps be seen most clearly in the establishment of the recent UN working group, of which Open Data Watch is actually a member. So it was established only a few years ago, but the working group in general aims to provide guidance to national offices, national statistical offices, on approaches for data stewardship, on sharing best practices and actually collecting information globally from everyone kind of participating actively or inactively in this role and in these fields to have the ability to set more international standards and align ourselves. So all of that being said, again, happy to share more information on that if asked. But I think we can go over a couple examples of how specifically replicated and federated data governance practices and data stewardship practices are being examined and utilized by countries and how that's kind of taking shape for them. We've actually had already a great example of this from His Excellency's own presentation. He demonstrated a number of ways that the UAE is already working towards this. But one example that I'd provide of replicated data stewardship is New Zealand. So again, replicated data governance is well suited to promote interoperability among independent organizations or independent ministries. And by that, I mean ministries that do not have the NSO at the center. So in an NSS, let's say, where the Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Energy are all collecting and producing their own data, as opposed to the NSO collecting data on all the other ministries and publishing it itself in a more centralized way. So New Zealand, for their part, defines data stewardship as the careful and responsible creation, collection, management, and use of data. You'll see that aligns very well with the more general definition that I provided earlier, but is also going to be different from the next country that I show you. So New Zealand, for their part, as they are an example of replicated data stewardship, have developed a toolkit, again, very similar to the UAE, to provide a common structure and language for organizing and describing what they think are 7 different elements that are required for effective data stewardship, specifically in New Zealand. This one is not global, it's related specifically to them and their needs. So the GCDS, which is what they call it, provides leadership of government-held data and is responsible for enabling greater data use. So this is an example of a country establishing a specific role for a data steward who will then lead the organization or the ministry, several ministries, to aligning themselves with data stewardship standards. So they've carved out that specific role. And you can see that they've carved out a number of other roles, as well as created kind of a mapping system for how they can interact with all the different ministries in their NSS. On the other side, we have the example of Canada, who describes data stewardship as the management and oversight of data assets to ensure they are of high quality, easily accessible, and used appropriately in a consistent manner. So you can see that their version of data stewardship leans more into the user needs version. So as such, they have, again, federated data governance kind of focuses on hub activity, and Canada has a few of those within their national statistical system. One for gender and in increasing the access and effectiveness of gender data, and another one for energy and climate use, both of which make that data really publicly available to constituents, to users, to citizens, and also provide kind of a roadmap for how to use that data effectively. And you might recognize this method as it was based off of, or at least inspired by, a working group from the UN back in 2018, who created a similar hub for their SDG data. Again, very happy to send links later on. But to wrap up, essentially, the goals of data stewardship, whether you are on the same definition as some of the countries that we looked at or are working on your own, the goals generally remain the same. It's to support high quality and optimize data use, facilitate data discoverability and accessibility, set common data definition standards, policies, alignment mechanisms, reduce the time that is spent to find the data and verifying it preemptively, helping to eliminate duplication, and to support the effective data governance and strategies that kind of structure all of this work. So with that all being said, I realize I've provided a lot of information in a relatively short amount of time, and I will stop there, and I'm very happy to answer questions. Thank you for your time.
Thanks a lot, Ms. Taylor, for this impressive practices and insightful presentation. I believe we can now start opening the door for more questions. Maybe we will take 2 to 3 questions. I will start with His Excellency Younus. If you would like to raise any question to Open Data Watch, or you have any feedback on the presentation.
Well, Taylor, thank you very much for the informative presentation. I think the one general comment from my side is, I think in Dubai since 2021, we've been in a journey of merging 2 establishments, Dubai Data Establishment, which was meant to do the data governance and become more of the regulatory aspect, putting the right governance frameworks and managing the formation of registers or administrative data, if we would say in the context of statistics. We had the Dubai Data Statistics Centers. So 2021, with the formation of Digital Dubai, those 2 organizations has been merged together. I would say from the experiences that you've witnessed, if there would be any single advice that you would share with us of not to be doing in the journey going forward, would be really great.
Not to be doing. I would just say, particularly in the stage that you're in now of trying to merge two entities, to make sure that to keep the process of that as transparent as you can. From what I've seen, the merging of entities often leads to silos from those original separate entities, kind of just still staying in their communicative lanes and only speaking to each other. We were helping a different NSO merge a few of their ministries, and found by just getting them in the same room that they didn't realize they were collecting the same type of data and were duplicating efforts, or didn't realize that they were publishing something that was, old, and that a different ministry had collected newer data. And, now this has to be thrown out or redone. So just making sure that you are keeping everyone involved in the process as abreast and keeping them as involved in the process as you can, I think is the best way to start. And once you kind of have those lines of communication open, I think making sure that you establish time and adhere to kind of like a roadmap of short, medium, and long-term goals with people who are accountable for specific tasks, people who are then accountable for specific objectives, and making sure you hold everyone in that kind of roster to account will keep you on track much easier than not doing so.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency, and thanks, Taylor, for your comprehensive answers. So we will have room for 3 questions, maybe. We'll start with the first one, a very interesting question. What are the initiatives or programs does Open Data Watch have in place to build the capacity of governments and organizations in managing and utilizing open data effectively?
Right. So we, as a monitoring organization, we don't have programs set up specifically for NSOs, but we do interact with countries who seek our help in looking over their data openness and accessibility practices, and providing examples of other countries that we would consider best practices in that area, and also sharing our own expertise in what open data is technically. So in that specific vein would be not just making sure that it's published freely on your website, right? But making sure you have an open data license, and going through countries on how to get one, what the different types of licenses are, the difference between a data license and a data law, helping them on the process of getting that started, establishing short, medium, and long-term goals that they can either complete internally within team, complete externally with other resources, or we can introduce them to countries that are either in their region or in similar stages as them to assist in them moving their own stages forward.
Thank you, Taylor. Is there any audit systems to ensure the accuracy of data?
Audit systems or other systems?
Audit system.
From Open Data Watch or in general?
From Open Data Watch.
There are no audit systems that we have outside of ODIN, which is our monitoring tool. It stands for the Open Data Inventory. So it's a tool that's largely an assessment we conduct every 2 years. The most recent results were just published a few months ago, in which we analyze the ministry websites of this year. I believe we covered 193 countries, and provided our analysis of how open their data is, how we conceive their data as being open or complete or accessible. And we also provide tailored recommendations for each country on how they can better make data of various categories more open, more transparent, more complete, either through metadata or statistical law or et cetera. So that's probably the closest we have to an audit. But if you are interested in how your country ranks in that way, I would suggest checking your country profile on ODIN for more information.
Interesting. Last 2 questions, Taylor, if you allow me. One of the interesting question is data stewardship can lead to operational risks, such as ineffective data usage. So what measures are taken to avoid this?
That's a great question. What's coming to mind right now is Colombia. Colombia did a very interesting, very involved method of kind of trying to reduce operational risk by, they took their data and made it much more, they kind of distributed responsibility for who is accountable for certain populations in their data. They were having an issue with specific populations not being very data literate, or not knowing where to find information, or not being able to access it. And so they created and carved out roles for people specifically targeted to certain communities to say, hey, are you making sure that these people are finding this information, that we're even publishing data they are interested in using, and kind of establishing a monitoring and evaluation process in that way. So you can go more manual if you have the staff capacity for it. But otherwise, it might be a situation where just systemic change internally might need to be considered before jumping into data stewardship, to make sure that your actions are not putting you at risk for ineffective data use or even privacy concerns.
Thanks, Taylor. The last question is open data more important, or interoperability between systems? And how about open source platforms versus open data architecture?
I don't know if I would say it's more important. I would say they are equally important, as one will have difficulty existing effectively without the other. Interoperability ensures data standards and data use more easily. Open source versus open data architecture. I would say they're both very important. One of the ways that we measure openness through ODIN is determining how open or how accessible, how easy it is for a user to access your data. So if you published your data on a platform that requires a paywall or a login that's not accessible, that we don't consider that as open as it could be. So in that way, open source platforms are very important, right? Making sure that your data is published in machine readable formatting, as well as non-proprietary formatting as infrastructure is very important. But regardless of the platform you publish your data on, if the data itself is not transparent or open or easily accessible, then that the platform doesn't really matter. So I would say start with open data and then work towards an open data or an open infrastructure if you have to do it one step at a time. But ideally, you would try and make sure both are happening gradually.
So as we reach to the end of this session, I would like to really appreciate your time and generosity, Ms. Taylor, as well as His Excellency Younus and Nasser for this excellent and insightful presentations. And also, I would like to thank all the participants who joined us today. And see you again in the next GEO Talks. Thank you so much.